Now, to those who say there's no physical evidence to support the Bible, the third reason you should trust the Bible is because of archaeological evidence or archaeological discoveries. Archaeological discoveries. The discoveries of archaeology have strong confirmation to the accuracy and reliability of the Bible. In fact, let's hear a couple more smart guys. You ready? It may be stated categorically that no archaeological discovery has ever controverted a biblical reference. We're like, controverted, I don't use that word very much. It means to deny the truth of something. No archaeological discovery has ever denied the truth of a statement in the Bible. Here's another smart guy. On the whole, however, archaeological work has unquestionably strengthened confidence in the reliability of the scriptural record. More than one archaeologist has found his respect for the Bible increased by the experience of excavation in Palestine. Now, what I'm going to show you is a handful of Old Testament examples of archaeological discoveries that have confirmed some of the Old Testament. So here we go. These are Nuzi tablets. That's what they're called. They're in the London British Museum. They date to about the time of Moses, and they confirm customs described in Genesis. The Elamarna tablets, again, same amount of time, refers to the conquest of Canaan by Joshua around the same time. Here's Joshua's altar that dates to 1400 BC. This is the altar described in Joshua chapter 8. So if you're reading through the Bible, you get to Joshua chapter 8 in this passage, and you hear this ceremony described in this altar that was built, you can go to this altar and stand there and see it with your own eyes to this day. The Israel stela of King Mereneptah dates to about 1200 BC. Why is it important? As it says there, it contains the oldest existing non-biblical reference using the word Israel outside of the Bible. So it's not a biblical text. It's the stela of King Mereneptah, where he's talking about all the wonderful things that he accomplished, and he pushed the Israelites out of Egypt. Well, here they are. You ever read the story about Gideon's stream and God, how many men should go into this battle with me? You can go visit that. I took that picture. That's from my own camera. The Tel Dan stela. Why is this important? Because it was the first non-biblical reference to the house of David. That's what it says there in that little square. Well, it doesn't make sense for there to be a house of David unless there was a David. So this is the first extra biblical reference to David. Well, before this moment, scholars were saying David is like King Arthur, mythical figure. There's no evidence that he ever existed. This is found, and they say, oops. There's more. The Moabite stone confirms the rebellion in 2 Kings 3. Mentions Israel, Yahweh, maybe even the house of David again. So you seeing what's happening here? Let's continue. I've seen this black obelisk with my own eyes in the British Museum. It mentions King Jehu, 2 Kings 9 and 10. Shalmaneser III, mentioned in 2 Kings 9 and 10. You see the actual event in the Bible depicted on that obelisk. The Taylor prism tells about the conquest of the Assyrian king Sennacherib, of his interaction with King Hezekiah, who is named on that prism. Here's the Hezekiah seal. This was found last year at the base of the steps of the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. So this is the seal impression for official documents, and it says on there, on that seal, King Hezekiah. 700 BC, they find it exactly in the layers of sediment where it should be. And 1 meter away from it, they find this. This is the ancient Hebrew for the name Isaiah. And this is the first 3 letters of the word prophet, right here. Right here is where scholars believe the last letter of the word prophet is. Why? Because you can see this seal continued out farther. And so they would say, if this is centered, which it is, then that letter would be right there. So there's Hezekiah and Isaiah, who both interacted together in the scriptures, their seals found in the exact place where it should be, 1 meter apart from each other. That was just found last year. The house of God letter, this refers to the temple being in Jerusalem. King Nabonidus' cylinder mentions his son Belshazzar. That was another one. Belshazzar never existed. We have no evidence for him until they found this and said, oops, again. More archaeological evidence confirmed in the Old Testament. Here's more legal codes and locations and existence of people groups, Canaanites, Philistines, biblical cities. Those ones with the stars are ones that I've been to and seen with my own eyes. The spring where Gideon chose his men, like I said before. This just continues. There's so much here. I'm just scratching the surface. Existence of Solomon's temple, invasion of Pharaoh Shishak. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. You can go to Hezekiah's tunnel and walk through it. The seals with the names of these very minor characters at the destruction of Jerusalem. Here they found seals with their names saying servant of the king. Persian King Cyrus allowing the Jews to return. So you have this description at the very beginning of Ezra of this decree from King Cyrus, and then they find it. Unbelievable. Unless you believe the Bible is true. Then you're like, well, of course. So if you want to know more about this, if you want to see this, I would recommend you buying this book. I took this book into the British Museum, and that was fantastic. But if you don't get a chance to do that, this is full color. So you can see it with your own eyes. You can read the descriptions. It's fascinating. One smart guy put it this way: there can be no doubt that archaeology has confirmed the substantial history of the Old Testament. Now, what about the New Testament? Well, nearly every city in Acts has been identified. Many more have been excavated. Not long ago, people were saying Pontius Pilate, he never existed. He's a made-up foil for the Christians to why Jesus died. He never really existed. And then they found this with his name on it. Whoops. 1961, excavating in a town called Caesarea Maritima along the coast of the Mediterranean Sea. And it says, Pontius Pilate, prefect of Judea. Here are a couple more. Gallio inscription. This Gallio is mentioned in Acts 18 in Corinth, and they find this in Corinth. Crazy. Erastus inscription found at Corinth again. Erastus is mentioned in Romans 16, and here is his name, found exactly where he should be at the right layer. And here's more for the New Testament. We've got famous people like Caesar and Jesus and Peter and Paul, Herod the Great, Antipas, Licinius of Abilene, Caiaphas, cities that you can go to and see with your own eyes, dozens and dozens. James, Jesus' brother, there's evidence for him. There's proconsul Sergius Paulus. You can visit Jacob's well, Pool of Bethsaida, Peter's house, Pool of Siloam, Lazarus' tomb, Garden of Gethsemane, and Jesus' tomb. You can go to all these places and see it with your own eyes. You don't have to take my word for it. But what's the point? My beloved college professor used to say, every time an archaeologist turns his spade, another critic says, oops. Why? Because the Bible is reliable history. There are dozens of more discoveries that support the Old and New Testament. I've merely scratched the surface. But I want you to understand something. I slowed down and just piled on a bunch of slides for this reason, so that you would get bored seeing the mountain of proof that comes from archaeological discoveries for the reliability of the Bible.